Welcome back to our Jedi Mastery videos. I'm breaking down the JEDI acronym in a little bit more granular detail from the main talk. And that's just because I got a lot of questions, a lot of interest about this. And so now we're moving into the D, which stands for diversity. And again, on our chart from the main talk, which I'm referencing here, so when we go back down our I-beam model, we're now in the aspirations. So we're moving into, if I have the aspiration to live in a world that allows for diversity, honors diversity, what is it that we have to start to address around this conversation around diversity in order to manifest that and truly bring that out into the world? It's a question a lot of people are in. You know, we're in Pride Month right now as we're filming this. There's a lot of conversation around diversity out in the world. And so here's what's really important that I want to talk to you all about with diversity. If we move over into the next column and we talk about the ego really gets into a place where it starts to, and I use the word disdain. And disdain is, it's in a place of dislike, disdainment, discouragement. Any of those D words actually move you away from something. The ego says, do I like this? And you want to know the number one thing the ego uses to gauge if it likes something and if it is safe. It actually says, are you like me? And unfortunately, the ego uses a lot of physical comparisons. Do you look like me? Do you dress like me? Do you talk like me? Do you laugh like me? So this diversity conversation, we are never going to, in my opinion, get to a world that truly honors and embraces diversity until we start talking to our ego about the dislike and the disdain and this ability to just kind of discard people because it doesn't think that it can like or love or include that person, place, or thing because it's not like me. Now, unfortunately, that's the job of our brain. Our brain scans the environment constantly and says, is this safe? Is this not safe? Do I like this? Do I not like this? And so we live in a world of duality. We live in a world of polarities. Thankfully, we need our dualities and polarities because if we didn't have hot, we wouldn't know cold. If we didn't have love, we wouldn't be able to experience hate. So we have all these opposites floating around. Not that that's a bad thing, but the older we get, the wiser we get, especially in conscious leadership, we have to start talking about waking up, getting out of those old programs, out of those old patterns of like and dislike and polarities and comparison and duality. And we have to start using what I call a both and lens and a both and belief. Meaning I can be both in my body connected to who I am and all that I like, and I can also see who you are, what you look like, how you feel, what you think, all the interests you have. And I'm not trying to connect us on the level of, are you like me because you do like me? No, I mean do as in doing. So do you do the things I do? When you cultivate mindfulness, what happens is, and this is our next D, you really get the ability to discern. And discernment says, let me look past all the things I'm trying to find that are like me, and let me start to discern and build a belief system that all are welcome. And discernment is really what I would call wisdom. We're cultivating wisdom when we shut up and sit in silence and stillness with ourselves. And this integrative development, this I-beam model that was in our main talk, here's the most important part about that. When we talk about living in a place of wholeness or coming back home to who we really are, who we truly are, our authentic selves, whatever language speaks to you, all that means is that we have integrated all the parts that we've kind of broken off from ourselves and split out. We're pulling them all back together, and we're really in a place of true integration. And that's where your wisdom comes from. Your wholeness is really what gives you the ability to discern. So when you shut up and sit on this cushion and go within and start getting to know yourself a little bit better, and you think about all the parts about yourself that are different, you actually start to learn to love them. And then when you start to love all of the parts of yourself that are different, you can offer that to others. So I think you get the theme and the kind of the pattern we're going with here. Mindfulness is, again, going into ourselves and showing up and paying attention on purpose with kindness for ourselves first. We have to do that, and we can only do that in silence and stillness, no distraction, and just listen to the voice inside of you. Talk to it. That's your ego. Get to know, what is it trying to keep you from doing? And if you look at this grid, the goal is on one side, the ego's in the middle, mindfulness is on the other. We're not trying to get rid of the ego or overcome it. What we're trying to do is invite the ego to actually work with us in that mindfulness place of silence and stillness and say, hey, how can you've got amazing energy. The ego can do unbelievable things. How about you leverage that energy instead of telling me, don't like this person, don't connect with this person, judge that person, create, really ridiculous stories in my head. What if that voice, what if that ego just kind of matured a little bit and came up out of adolescence and worked in the real, mature, true energy that you already are to help you to do that even more? When you do that, your wisdom and the discernment that comes from that is a game changer. And so what's interesting in this I-beam model, in that Venn diagram, if you remember, the identity is in the middle of behavior, environment, and mindset. And there was an arrow to the outside. Aspiration lives in the unknown. And this is where the rubber meets the road on this one. When we get into diversity, we've never really lived in a world that honored diversity. So nobody really knows how to do it. We think we do. And I believe we have to move past the disdainment and the discouragement and all of those D words that separate us and get to the heart of discerning. Can I put all those pieces back together and see them inside myself, and then go out and love and see them in others and discern that wisdom says everybody here is welcome? That's a new social norm that I believe we have to build, and I don't think we can build it if we aren't sitting down and going within and talking to ourselves first. How do you love and include others if you're not doing it for yourself first? You can't give something to someone that you don't first possess. So I really love moving into this aspirational unknown space. There's a lot more to dive into here, but I want you to understand there's so many components. You're starting to see it now with the justice video. We talked about non-judgmental awareness is what you get when you start to practice mindfulness. In the equity and equality, we talked about cultivating equanimity. Now we're moving into the diversity conversation. You're really cultivating the ability to discern or get some inner wisdom. All of us have wisdom. We need our wisdom to come out from everybody in the world if we want to be able to honor the diversity of everyone in the world. And so for me, I don't know how you or anyone else in the world is moving past and integrating the ego into all of who they are to work for the greater good if you're not doing the practice of shutting up and sitting down and going within and having these real honest conversations with yourself. So I want to invite you, which is coming up in our next video in the eye, to really start to think about, am I in a real place of bringing my wisdom out into the world? Am I discerning not the truth, because we all have a truth? Am I discerning my truths and my reality? And am I discerning how can I bring them out into the world to benefit everyone and bring the diversity out in all of us, as opposed to try to keep people to fit into some boxes or silos of social norms that discourage diversity? And so I really believe if you do that, you're going to find yourself in a much deeper place of wisdom. You'll know when your wisdom is present, and when your wisdom is present, you're not threatened by other people's wisdom. So if somebody is not in a place of honoring diversity, it's because they haven't tapped into their own wisdom and power, so they can't honor someone else's. And then when we get into that, what happens is we create categories and differences, and the representation gets all skewed. So ultimately, what we want with diversity is differences in perspectives, identities, and backgrounds integrated into all parts of our community. So I'm hopeful that if you sit with yourself, if you go within, you'll be able to cultivate the discernment to really create a diverse world. If you haven't gotten any of my resources, be sure to check those out. I'm listing those here at the end of each video for you. My book, Shut Up and Sit, is on Amazon, so you can get the Kindle or the printed version. Definitely check out the Shut Up and Sit podcast. The Shut Up and Sit community that's online, that's on the portal that you're listening to this talk on, has several other courses that you can get involved in. And then ultimately, you can check out the YouTube channel for me under Yetta Stansel. There's really no excuse of why you can't learn to shut up and sit and bring mindfulness out into the mainstream. So I look forward to being a part of that movement with you. And I'll see you on the next video where we're into the eyes and we're talking about inclusion. See you there.